We're going to change the cable on an S210, the shot cable. So what we're going to do first is take off the old one, and then we're going to put on a new one, and then we'll go over some of the things on how it should function and also what to look for in the cable and things that may be happening to make you need to change the cable or whatever may help get more shot to the ground. We're going to go ahead and start with a 7mm socket, and we'll undo these bolts on this back panel. I generally just kind of leave the one in so that can hang, because we're only going to need to access this side of the panel, right where this cable is. So what we'll need to do from here is loosen up this lock. And I'll hold it with a little flathead. Just like that. And that will allow us to pull our cable down through there. And then from there, pull it right through the bottom hole of the panel. And then what we'll do is we'll unhook it from the front of the blaster. It'll get hooked up right here, the same Allen wrench. Just kind of hold the cable still so you can turn that. And I'll fish the cable out through there, and then just straight out through here. All right, now we're putting on the new cable. The new cable, we want to make sure it can slide nice and easily through the casing. Even on the old cable, anything that pinches this jacket can cause an obstruction here and not allow this to move, which is going to make this handle a whole lot harder to pull and is not going to allow the valve to open up fully. And also, whenever we're putting on this cable, I like to have the hopper open, and also so we can actually see the valve inside, because we're going to have to see the valve open and close. So you're going to want to make sure the machine is emptied with shot. Then what we're going to do, we're actually going to put the cable on the top handle first, and then we'll feed it down the machine. Run the cable up through that bottom hole in the handle, then we'll come through that guide. Once you see that coming through, we're going to run that through the lock. The lock has a little hole in it, and then that goes right through the handle. So what we're going to want to make sure is this thing slides in there. All right, now that we got a little bit of wire poking through, what we're gonna do is just tighten this down just a little bit. We don't need to make it tight or anything, because we're gonna come back and adjust this at the end. We're just gonna keep it here just to clamp the cable still while we do the rest. Go ahead and just put the jacket up there. It's probably gonna fall down, but that's okay, just as long as we have an idea of where it's gonna go. We'll fix that. Then we'll run the cable through these two hoops here on the blaster. Then we'll run the cable through the guide. And then the same thing down here. We have the same lock with the hole. Put it right through here. And we'll put our cable through that hole. Okay, now that we got that through, what we're gonna do is we'll go ahead and have about a couple inches hanging through the bottom here. We'll go ahead and tighten this bottom one down tight. The Allen wrench. Hold that snug with the wrench so we can get it tight. Then we'll go through and fix our cable. So we want to have a nice little loop there, that hanging. Nice loop through here, and then we want this black casing. Make sure it gets seated right up against, right inside that nipple there. Then what we're gonna probably need to do is we have this tight, we can kind of see where we're at, but we're gonna need to tighten this, because now if I pull this handle, we only pull a little bit. So what we're gonna need to do is pull this through a little bit more. And what we'll do is we'll look at our valve in here to see where it's at, because what we want is when the valve is closed, when the handle's down, we want to make sure that this valve is closed. Just a little tension on there. Go ahead and tighten that down. We'll go ahead and work it and see how it looks. This valve should open almost all the way up to a 90-degree right here. It's not quite full enough. It's not too bad, but we're gonna open it up so it comes open a little bit farther. So what we're gonna need to do is when this sits, we're gonna pull a little bit more cable through the top and then tighten it down again. Once it starts getting a little tension on that spring, that's usually where I'll usually use a pair of pliers to get a little bit more tension on this cable. So what we'll do is we'll loosen this up. Just start pulling a little bit more through. Try it right there. We'll go ahead and look inside again, make sure our valve is closed, and then when we open it, about right there, because it's about 90 degrees with its flat surface. Okay, now as you can see, once it's done, this valve opens and closes nice and easily. It's pretty easy to do. If you have a problem with the cable, lots of things what you might run into is where this handle is really hard to pull. If the handle is really hard to pull and you use two hands to pull it, that could mean that there is actually a problem with the cable itself. A pinch here or down at the bottom, but the first things to look at before you ever remove the cable is to first check right here where this cable runs through, to make sure that this is a nice straight line through here and that the cable's not rubbing real hard on like the sides of this. Make sure it comes up right there around the center and that the cable's not taking a bad angle this way or this way. If it is, you can adjust that from side to side with the nuts here on the handle. Here are these nuts. You never want them too tight because you want it to be able to spin in this bracket. But what you can do is if you loosen up this outside one and you tighten this inside one, it's gonna bring this handle to my left this way, which would bring it further over this hole. Or if you needed to go the opposite way, go vice versa. But what you want is a straight shot from here to here. And then also the same thing at the bottom. You wanna make sure that this angle is not too bad. You want to make sure that this takes a straight shot right to the valve. If something could have slipped and this could have moved, because you want it to be in about this position. If this thing's running real bad off to the side one way or another, what it's going to do is put a lot of extra strain on the cable when it comes through the guides. So you want to make sure everything has a nice clear passage. And also, if you have a machine where something might have just settled or slipped a little bit, if it doesn't seem to be blasting enough and the valve is not opening fully, you can always adjust down here or adjust right here at the top like how we did. Just loosen this, pull a little bit more cable through without making sure you're not opening up the valve inside. As long as that stays shut, get as much tension on it as you can, tighten it back down. That's how you could just adjust the cable if it just needs an adjustment. Needs to be, we can go ahead and put our back cover back on.